Hi, my name is James Sanderson, and today I'm going to be talking about gun safety and why it is so important. Guns are extremely dangerous, and that is no understatement. In fact, statistically speaking, every day about 100 Americans are killed by guns, and only a handful of those are by accident. In 2016, there were 161,374 deaths from unintentional injuries from guns worldwide. It was the third most cause of death that year, in fact. The worst part about this is that most accidental deaths from guns happen with minors. In 2014, 2,549 children died by gunshot, and an additional 13,576 were injured. These kids range from ages 0 to 19 years old. The main reasoning behind most of these deaths were because the children weren't careful and weren't taught how to properly handle a weapon, or they were too young and sadly they thought the guns were toys when left out and the children would play with them. To help prevent this, all it takes is to spread awareness and just to teach others that guns aren't supposed to be toys and need to be treated with the utmost care and carefulness. It only takes a little bit of pressure to set off that trigger, and it only takes a little bit of pressure to take a life. There are numerous classes to take gun safety and how to keep them away for safety. For one, when not using, to keep it unloaded and in a spot where children can't reach it. And even more serious, if you keep it loaded for self-defense purposes, put it in a place where only you can get it. Always keep the gun on safety even if it's unloaded. Always keep the gun pointed away from you and others and yourself when handling it. And overall, just be aware of what you're doing. Being careless with firearms is more dangerous than the gun itself. In fact, at a shooting range in Texas, a man was showing off his guns to a group of people, and he decided to let his son shoot an Uzi, which is also a military-grade weapon. When the kid started shooting the gun, he wasn't strong enough to control the recoil, and he never let off the trigger till it blew back and he shot himself in the head. The father now has to live with that for the rest of his life, and it all could have been prevented if he just would have been aware and not so careless with this firearm. Guns are not toys. They are tools and weapons that should not be treated any different than a live bomb. And when being used with intent to shoot, they need to be handled with even more care. You need to make sure nothing is behind the target you are shooting, and you need to know how to handle the gun if and when it jams. Need to have the proper protection for yourself and always be aware of your surroundings, and make sure when you are finished with it to make sure it's empty and put it up properly. And if you have it loaded but haven't started shooting, to make sure it's always on safety, even when it's not in use. Another area of guns that need to be handled with extreme care is hunting. From a young age, I was always hunting, even before I could even shoot a gun. But one thing that was always stressed to me, my dad, was to not play around with guns. My father's teaching about gun safety has taught me a lot, but some others weren't as lucky as me. In fact, a few days ago, a 9-year-old boy passed away due to a hunting accident in North Carolina. His name was Colton Williams. He was hunting rabbits with his father and family friend when an accidental discharge from his father's gun killed Colton. When hunting with firearms, you need to exercise extreme caution and care because you never know what can happen. And also another horrible event happened. And 2 weeks ago in Michigan, a man mistook his brother for a deer and shot him. And another event happened 2 weeks ago in Missouri. A grandfather shot his grandson because he also thought he was a deer. And there are even worse cases of this where more lives were taken. But these could have all been prevented if they would have just exercised their gun safety. They should have been aware of their surroundings. You always have to know what you're shooting at, even what's behind the object you're shooting at. You need to know how to handle the gun around others and always keep it pointed away from yourself and others. Make sure if you're hunting in a dark or heavily covered areas to wear clothing that will make you visible to your other hunters. And really just be smart and observe your surroundings, and always make sure you can clearly see the target and you know what it is before you fire. Gun safety is not a hard thing to learn. However, it's extremely easy to forget. It's so easy to get caught up in a moment when that trophy buck walks out there and forget the rules of gun safety, or just be tired and careless and not follow the gun safety rules. And all it takes is those things to take someone's life. Gun safety is not a joke, and I think anyone who has guns around or in their life should learn it. It's not a hard task, and it is also rewarding. It takes just being diligent and being aware of your actions and the possible reactions of them. It doesn't take much to prevent the endangering of yourself and others, and it is a very rewarding feat to learn.